Chosen one, listen carefully. Have you noticed something changing inside you? The struggles that once consumed your energy no longer feel the same. The battles that once drained your spirit no longer hold the same weight. Something is shifting. The fight that defined your past is losing its grip. And you feel it. You feel it in the quiet moments. You feel it in the strange calm that now appears where chaos once ruled. You feel it in the growing sense that the life you once struggled through is no longer the life you belong to. Have you felt that, as if the version of reality you once lived inside is beginning to fade? Listen carefully. This is not weakness. This is not burnout. This is not confusion. This is transition, because when a divine shift begins, life does not simply improve. Life restructures. The same world is still around you, but it no longer controls you the same way. The same pressures exist, but they no longer define you. Something deeper is taking control. Your spirit is rising beyond the battlefield of ordinary struggle. And when that happens, certain marks begin to appear. Clear marks, unmistakable marks, signs that you are no longer operating from survival, but from something far greater. Most people will never recognize these changes. Most people will spend their entire lives trapped in cycles of fear, competition, and exhaustion. But you are not most people. You were never meant to live chained to ordinary struggle. You were marked for something greater, marked for awakening, marked for authority, marked for purpose. And when that shift begins, the evidence becomes impossible to ignore. In this message, you will recognize 9 marks of the divine shift, 9 confirmations that you are moving beyond the limits of mortal struggle and stepping into alignment with a power that was always placed inside you. Some of these marks may already be unfolding in your life. And when you recognize them, everything begins to make sense. The rejection, the isolation, the battles you fought alone. None of it was random. It was preparation. And the final mark, the last one, is the moment most chosen ones realize the truth about their entire journey, a truth the world will never understand, but you will. First, the collapse of motivations that once controlled your life. Pay attention to this. There was a time when certain things drove you forward. Recognition, approval, competition, the need to prove yourself. You felt the pressure to achieve what everyone else was chasing. You wanted the promotion, the applause, the validation that told you that you mattered. But something strange begins to happen during the divine shift. Those motivations start losing their power. The things that once felt urgent begin to feel hollow. Have you noticed this? Opportunities appear that once would have excited you, but now they feel strangely empty. The reward is there, but the hunger is gone. And at first this confuses you. You wonder what happened. You ask yourself, why don't I feel the same drive anymore? Listen carefully. Nothing is wrong with you. This is elevation. Your spirit is outgrowing the systems that once controlled you. The world runs on approval and competition. It teaches people to chase validation like oxygen. But the chosen cannot stay trapped in that system forever. Because the moment your purpose begins to awaken, your soul rejects shallow motivations. You stop chasing attention. You stop measuring your value through other people's opinions. You stop fighting for positions that were never part of your assignment. And the world notices this change. Some people call it lack of ambition. Others call it detachment. But they are wrong. This is clarity. You are no longer driven by the hunger of survival. You are being repositioned by purpose. Think about it. You may achieve something today that once would have meant everything to you, and yet you feel calm, centered, unmoved, not because it lacks value, but because your spirit knows your destiny is larger than the reward in front of you. You are no longer chasing applause. You are aligning with assignment. And when this happens, a new kind of power begins forming inside you. Quiet power, stable power, divine power. But this is only the beginning, because once the old motivations collapse, something even more mysterious begins to unfold. Second, isolation becomes a sacred chamber. This is where many chosen ones become afraid, because the shift does not always begin with increase. It often begins with separation. People start falling away. Spaces start feeling unfamiliar. Conversations that once held your attention now feel empty, shallow, drained of life. Have you noticed this? The circle that once felt normal now feels misaligned. The voices that once surrounded you now sound distant. Even places you used to enjoy begin to feel heavy. And for a moment you wonder what is happening to you. Why do you feel alone? Why does everything familiar suddenly feel out of reach? Why does your soul keep pulling away from what used to comfort you? Listen carefully. You are not being abandoned. You are being consecrated. This is not punishment. This is not rejection. This is not failure. This is recalibration. When divine power begins to form in you, noise must lose access to you. When your anointing deepens, distractions can no longer stay close. When your spirit is being prepared for higher sight, lesser attachments must break. That is why isolation becomes necessary. Not everyone will understand this. Not everyone can. The world fears solitude because solitude exposes what is real. But the chosen learn something the world does not know. Isolation is not always emptiness. Sometimes it is the holiest room you will ever enter. Because in that chamber, masks fall, dependence breaks, false comfort dries up, and the voice of truth gets louder. Do you understand what is happening? Heaven is pulling you away from constant noise, so your inner hearing can sharpen. You are being moved away from crowded confusion, so your discernment can mature. You are being separated from the familiar, because the familiar can no longer carry your destiny. This is why old friendships feel strained. It is not because you hate anyone. It is not because you think you are better. It is because your spirit can no longer feed on what no longer carries light. You feel it. You sit in conversations and feel disconnected. You stand in rooms full of people and still feel alone. You reach for what once made you feel safe and your soul refuses to settle there. That is not brokenness. That is transformation. The enemy wants you to misread this season. He wants you to call it loneliness. He wants you to believe you are losing everything. He wants you to panic and run back to places God already called you out of. Do not go back. Stand firm, because what feels like isolation is often divine protection. What feels like silence is often sacred instruction. What feels like distance is often the clearing of space before revelation. You are being unhooked from voices that kept you small. You are being pulled out of environments that cannot recognize your becoming. You are being trained to draw strength from presence, not popularity. And that is power. Real power. The kind of power that does not need a crowd. The kind of power that does not beg to be understood. The kind of power forged in hidden places where darkness thought it could bury you, but heaven was actually building you. Only the chosen recognize this. Your isolation is not evidence that favor left you. It is evidence that favor is separating you for assignment. The chamber feels quiet, but it is not empty. Something is being formed there. Something holy. Something dangerous to darkness. And once you begin to understand that your solitude stops feeling like loss and starts feeling like preparation. Third, your emotional triggers begin to lose their power. This is one of the clearest marks. Because there was a time when certain people could pull you out of peace with a single word, a look, a rejection, a slight, a betrayal, and it hit you deeply. Anger rose fast, fear moved quickly, jealousy tried to speak, pain demanded a reaction, but now something has changed. You still see the disrespect. You still recognize the manipulation. You still feel the atmosphere, but you do not move the same. Have you noticed this? Someone tries to provoke you and you stay still. Someone tries to insult you and the fire does not spread. Someone tries to bait you into confusion, and instead of collapsing into emotion, you watch. You simply watch. Listen carefully. This is not numbness. This is not passivity. This is not weakness. This is mastery. This is what happens when your spirit stops bowing to every emotional storm the enemy sends against you. This is what happens when awareness becomes stronger than reaction. This is what happens when your inner world is no longer ruled by chaos and darkness notices. Because the enemy depends on reaction, he depends on impulsive words, he depends on wounded responses, he depends on keeping you emotionally entangled so you cannot see clearly. But when the divine shift deepens, you become harder to move. Not cold, not disconnected, just anchored. That is power. The world will not understand this. The world praises loud reactions. It celebrates vengeance. It feeds off offense. It teaches people to answer every wound immediately. But you are being trained differently. You are being taught to discern before you respond, to see before you speak, to remain in command when others lose control. That is not ordinary strength. That is spiritual authority. You begin to realize that not every attack deserves your energy. Not every insult deserves your voice. Not every conflict deserves your presence. Remember this: just because something reaches for you does not mean it is allowed to enter you. That lesson changes everything. Now, when people project their bitterness, you recognize it. When they try to hand you their chaos, you refuse it. When they attempt to pull you into their insecurity, you stand outside of it. You see the pattern. You see the pain behind the behavior. You see the warfare behind the words. And because you see it, you do not become it. Have you ever shocked yourself with your own calm? Have you ever faced something that would have destroyed your peace in the past, and yet this time, you stayed centered? That is not an accident. That is evidence. Evidence that your soul is maturing. Evidence that your discernment is rising. Evidence that your anointing is teaching your emotions to serve your calling, not sabotage it. This is how you know you are changing. The same fire comes, but it no longer burns you the same. The same pressure comes, but it no longer controls you the same. The same warfare appears, but now it reveals your strength instead of exposing your weakness. Only the chosen understand the weight of this, because when triggers lose their power, bondage loses its grip. And when bondage loses its grip, the enemy loses one of his favorite access points into your life. You become dangerous then. Quietly dangerous, steadily dangerous. Dangerous to darkness because you can no longer be easily manipulated by emotion. And once that begins, another shift starts rising inside you, an even deeper one, an even sharper one. Fourth, your intuition becomes unmistakably precise. This is where the difference between you and the world becomes impossible to hide, because the world depends on endless analysis, endless noise, endless opinions. It asks everyone else what to do. It waits for permission. It calls confusion wisdom because it does not know how to hear the Spirit. But you are not being trained to live that way. You are being trained to know. Have you noticed this? A decision appears in front of you, and before your mind can even build an argument, something deeper in you already understands. A place looks normal on the outside, but something in your spirit says no. A person seems harmless to everyone else, but your inner witness pulls back. An opportunity looks risky to the crowd, but inside you, there is peace. And later you find out you were right. Listen carefully. This is not guesswork. This is not fantasy. This is not emotion pretending to be revelation. This is precision. This is what happens when the divine shift sharpens your inner hearing. This is what happens when the clutter of fear begins to die. This is what happens when your spirit becomes more aligned with truth than your flesh is with panic. You begin to recognize that real guidance does not always come as a loud voice. It often comes as certainty, clean certainty, sudden certainty, holy certainty, and it does not need to explain itself to be true. That is why the world struggles to understand you. They want charts, proof, consensus, approval from the crowd. But the chosen often move by something the crowd cannot measure: inner knowing. This is where your path begins to separate even more from ordinary people. Because ordinary people trust what they can see. They trust appearances, they trust popularity, they trust what sounds reasonable to the natural mind. But you are learning to trust what is revealed beneath the surface. That is power. Do not overlook this. There were seasons when confusion surrounded you because your discernment had not fully matured. There were times when you ignored the warning and paid for it. Times when you overrode your spirit to please people. Times when you doubted yourself because logic sounded louder than truth. But even that was part of the training. You had to learn the cost of ignoring your inner witness. You had to feel the pain of misplaced trust. You had to walk through the consequences so your spirit would stop apologizing for what it knows. Now you feel it faster. You walk into a room and sense the atmosphere immediately. You meet someone and know whether their presence carries peace or hidden war. You feel when to move. You feel when to wait. You feel when a door is divine. You feel when a door is bait, And that accuracy is not small. It protects you, it positions you, it preserves your assignment. Only the chosen recognize how serious this is. Because when your intuition sharpens, darkness loses the advantage of disguise. The enemy can no longer hide as easily behind charm, opportunity, urgency, or appearance. What once deceived you now reveals itself quickly. That is why your spirit has become so alert. You are not overthinking. You are perceiving. You are not becoming paranoid. You are becoming precise. And the sharper this becomes, the more clearly you begin to see that everything is not what it seems. Some smiles conceal envy. Some open doors conceal traps. Some delays conceal protection. And once that layer opens, you begin to see through things you were never meant to trust. Fifth, you begin seeing through illusions. This is where everything changes. Because once this mark activates in you, life stops looking the way it used to. People do not look the same. Systems do not look the same. Power does not look the same. You start noticing what others miss. Have you felt this? A conversation sounds normal on the surface, but something underneath it feels off. Someone speaks with confidence, but your spirit detects fear. A person tries to act strong, but you can see the insecurity leaking through every word. An environment looks successful on the outside, but inwardly you sense disorder, manipulation, and hidden pressure. Listen carefully. This is not judgment. This is awakened sight. The veil is thinning. You are no longer seeing only behavior. You are seeing what feeds the behavior. You are no longer reacting to appearances. You are discerning the force behind the appearance. That is a dangerous level of vision, dangerous to darkness, because darkness survives through disguise. It survives through image. It survives through performance. It survives by making bondage look normal and making control look like leadership. But now you can see it. You can see when kindness is fake. You can see when flattery is bait. You can see when authority is really insecurity wearing a costume. You can see when aggression is actually fear losing control. And once you see it, you cannot unsee it. That is why certain spaces have become harder for you to tolerate. It is not because you are difficult. It is not because you are unstable. It is because your spirit has outgrown illusion. The chosen are not meant to live asleep. The world often adapts to deception. It calls manipulation networking. It calls performance confidence. It calls spiritual emptiness success. It bows to titles. It fears image. It obeys systems without ever asking what spirit is driving them. But you are no longer built for blind agreement. You were trained through pain for this. Remember that. The betrayals trained your discernment. The rejection sharpened your sight. The seasons where people switched on you without warning forced you to read deeper. The warfare you endured was not random suffering. It was preparation. You had to learn that not everything smiling at you is safe. Not everything resisting you is your enemy. Not everything shining is light. That is why your perception is changing now. You walk into a room and feel the hidden tension. You hear a polished message and detect the control inside it. You watch social structures, family patterns, workplace games, religious performance, and public authority, and suddenly you recognize the same root underneath all of it. Fear. Fear controlling, fear hiding, fear performing, fear demanding worship. And once you see fear behind the system stops intimidating you. That is power. Real power. Because illusion only works on those who still believe in it. Manipulation only rules those who cannot identify it. False authority only controls those who still mistake noise for strength. But you are waking up. Only the chosen recognize the weight of this shift. Not everyone will understand why you no longer admire what once impressed you. Not everyone will understand why you question what others blindly trust. Not everyone will understand why your spirit pulls back from places everyone else calls normal. But you know because your eyes are opening. And when your eyes truly open, patterns begin to connect. What looked random starts revealing order. What looked confusing starts revealing meaning. What looked like scattered events starts revealing divine orchestration. That is when the next mark begins to appear. Sixth, synchronicities begin to multiply. This is where your journey starts feeling impossible to dismiss, because what once looked random no longer behaves randomly. Moments begin connecting. People begin appearing. Answers begin arriving. Doors begin opening at exact times, and you feel it. You think of someone you have not heard from in months, and suddenly they reach out. You ask for direction in silence, and the exact message finds you through a stranger, a sentence, a passing moment, a voice you did not expect. You wrestle with a decision, and then pattern after pattern begins confirming the same thing. Have you noticed this? The timing becomes too precise. The alignment becomes too exact. The repetition becomes too loud to ignore. Listen carefully. These are not accidents. These are not meaningless coincidences. This is not your imagination trying to make everything spiritual. This is response. This is what happens when your inner life begins aligning with divine order. This is what happens when your spirit moves into agreement with assignment. Life begins to answer back. That is why the signs start increasing. Because when you were lost in survival, everything felt scattered. Pain had your focus. Fear had your attention. Confusion distorted your sight. But now you are shifting. And as you shift, your path begins to reveal its hidden structure. You start realizing that heaven has been speaking longer than you knew. That favor has been moving behind the scenes longer than you recognized. That what looked delayed was often divine timing gathering weight. Only the chosen understand the gravity of this. Not everyone will understand why small moments hit you so deeply. Not everyone will understand why certain timings make your spirit stand still. The world calls it chance because the world does not know how to honor sacred alignment. But you know. You know when something is speaking to you. You know when a pattern is repeating on purpose. You know when life itself is confirming that you are not wandering. You are being led. Remember this. The struggle trained you for this sensitivity. The lonely seasons taught you how to listen. The disappointments taught you how to stop forcing doors. The betrayals taught you how to wait for what is real. The closed paths taught you not to worship immediacy. So now when a true opening appears, you can feel the difference. That is preparation. That is why your painful seasons were not wasted. They refined your ability to recognize divine timing. They broke your addiction to noise. They made you attentive to patterns ordinary people dismiss. And now the patterns are multiplying. A name repeats, a message repeats, a scripture repeats, a symbol repeats, a location, a conversation, a prompting, a sudden encounter, again and again and again. Why? Because your journey is carrying greater weight now. You are no longer only surviving warfare. You are being positioned for impact. And when that happens, the atmosphere around your life begins to organize itself differently. Connections become strategic. Interruptions become meaningful. Delays become directional. What once looked like disorder starts revealing orchestration. This is spiritual gravity. Your destiny is pulling things into place. Darkness wants you to ignore these moments. The enemy wants you to call them nothing. He wants you numb, distracted, and disconnected from the evidence of divine movement. Do not ignore this, because every true synchronicity is a reminder. You are seen, you are guided, you are not moving alone. And the more these confirmations increase, the more another shift begins to emerge. A heavier one, a higher one. One that changes not only what happens around you, but what happens when you enter a room. Seventh, your presence begins affecting other people. This is where the shift becomes visible. Not just to you, to others. Something about you starts changing the atmosphere without effort, without performance, without noise, without you trying to prove anything. Have you noticed this? You walk into a room that feels tense, heavy, unsettled, and somehow the energy begins to calm. People who were guarded start opening up. People who were loud start becoming careful. People who were comfortable in confusion suddenly become uneasy around your silence. Why? Because presence carries power. And when divine alignment deepens in you, your presence stops being neutral. Listen carefully. Real power does not beg to be seen. It does not chase attention. It does not need to announce itself. It shifts things by simply arriving. That is what is happening to you. Your spirit has been through too much not to carry weight now. The battles did something to you. The isolation did something to you. The warfare did something to you. You thought you were only surviving, but all along you were being forged. Forged in rejection, forged in silence, forged in hidden seasons the world knew nothing about. And now that forging is becoming tangible, people feel something when you enter. They do not always understand it. They cannot always explain it, but they feel it. Some feel peace, some feel exposed, some feel drawn, some feel threatened. That is why your presence creates different reactions. Light comforts what is ready. Light disturbs what is hiding. Remember this. Not everyone will celebrate your energy. Not everyone will understand why they feel different around you. Not everyone will know why your calm unsettles their chaos. But that does not mean something is wrong. It means something is real. The chosen often spend years wondering why people react so strongly to them. Why strangers tell them personal things. Why rooms shift when they arrive. Why certain people become defensive before they even speak. This is why. Your life has been intentionally shaped to carry spiritual substance. The pain refined you. The loss emptied you of performance. The waiting built depth in you. The crushing seasons stripped away false identity. So now what remains is not shallow. It is weighty. And weight changes atmospheres. Have you ever watched people reveal themselves around you without you doing anything? Have you ever seen hidden insecurity surface the moment you stayed calm? Have you ever noticed that some people relax around you while others become uncomfortable for no clear reason? That is discernment in motion. That is presence carrying authority. Only the chosen recognize this, because the world thinks influence comes from volume, from image, from status, from control. But heaven teaches something deeper. Influence comes from alignment. Authority comes from inner order. Presence becomes powerful when the soul is no longer fragmented. That is why your stillness speaks. That is why your gaze carries force. That is why your restraint carries more authority than another person's performance. Darkness recognizes centered people. The enemy studies those who no longer need external validation. Because when you become inwardly anchored, you become harder to manipulate, harder to distract, harder to move off assignment. This is not charisma. This is consecration. You are carrying something now, something quiet, something undeniable, something that changes environments before words are even spoken. And once you realize that your presence itself has become part of your assignment, then another mark begins to rise, a deeper one, a freer one. Eighth, your fear of the unknown begins to dissolve. This is one of the deepest marks of all, because the world is ruled by fear of uncertainty. It clings to predictability. It worships control. It builds its entire identity around what can be measured, managed, and guaranteed. But you are no longer being shaped by that spirit. Something greater is happening in you. Have you noticed this? The very things that once would have terrified you no longer have the same power. A closed door does not break you the way it used to. A sudden shift does not send you into panic the way it once did. An unexpected ending no longer feels like the destruction of your life. Instead, something in you stays steady. Something in you says, keep moving. Something in you says there is more ahead. Something in you says this is not the end of your path. This is the opening of it. Listen carefully. This is not recklessness. This is not denial. This is not you pretending not to feel pressure. This is trust becoming stronger than fear. That is a divine shift. Because when you were still bound to mortal struggle, uncertainty felt like danger. The unknown felt like loss. Every transition felt like something was being taken from you. But now you are seeing with different eyes. Now you understand that the unknown is often where destiny is hidden. The unfamiliar is often where favor is waiting. The path you cannot control is often the very path heaven prepared. That is why fear begins to lose its hold. Not because life suddenly becomes easy, not because warfare disappears, not because darkness stops testing your resolve. The opposition can still rise. In fact, it often rises harder when your calling grows clearer. The enemy attacks most fiercely when he senses movement. He presses hardest when he knows you are close to becoming what he feared from the beginning. He sends confusion, delay, and pressure because your next step carries weight. But even that pressure starts revealing something. You are no longer reacting to uncertainty like someone abandoned. You are walking through it like someone led. That is power. Have you noticed how your spirit has changed? You are more willing to release what no longer fits, more willing to leave what no longer carries life, more willing to step toward things you cannot fully explain simply because your inner knowing tells you to move. That is not carelessness. That is maturity. That is alignment. That is the breaking of an old chain. The chosen do not stay prisoners of certainty forever. They are trained to follow, trained to trust, trained to move when the cloud moves, even when the destination has not yet been revealed. Only the chosen understand this tension. You can feel the pressure of transition and still refuse to bow to fear. You can feel the shaking and still recognize invitation. You can stand at the edge of an unfamiliar season and know deep within that the unknown is no longer your enemy. It is your threshold. Remember this. The fear that once controlled you was never proof that you were weak. It was proof that you were standing near doors too large for your old identity. And now that identity is breaking. That is why your resistance increased. That is why the warfare intensified. That is why the pressure grew heavier. Your calling got stronger. And once fear of the unknown begins to dissolve, only one revelation remains. The deepest one. The one that explains everything. Ninth, you realize the struggle was never punishment. It was preparation. This is the final mark, the deepest one, the one that changes how you see your whole life. Because there comes a moment when you stop asking, why did this happen to me? And you begin asking, what was this building inside me? That is the shift. Have you ever looked back and seen it? The rejection that broke your heart, but sharpened your discernment. The betrayal that crushed your trust, but taught you how to read spirits clearly. The lonely nights that felt unbearable, but forced you to find strength no crowd could give you. Listen carefully. None of it was wasted. None of it was random. None of it was sent to destroy you. It trained you. Every closed door trained you. Every delay trained you. Every misunderstanding trained you. Every season when you felt unseen, forgotten, attacked, resisted, and isolated, trained you. The enemy thought the pressure would break you. Darkness thought the warfare would scatter you. But all it did was forge you. Forge your sight. Forge your endurance. Forge your restraint. Forge your authority. That is why you survived what should have ended you. You were never being buried. You were being built. Only the chosen recognize this. Not everyone will understand why your pain made you wiser instead of bitter. Not everyone will understand why your wounds turned into discernment. Not everyone will understand why the fire did not consume you. But you understand now. You had to go through it. You had to feel the loss. You had to endure the silence. You had to walk through warfare without applause, without explanation, without immediate reward. Why? Because the power coming to your life could not rest in an untested vessel. You were being prepared to carry weight without corruption, favor without pride, authority without ego, influence without losing your soul. Remember this. The struggle was not proof that you were cursed. It was proof that you were chosen for something heavy, something holy, something dangerous to darkness. And now the path opening before you finally makes sense. Now you see that what once felt unfair was actually necessary. It built the exact strength, clarity, and spiritual backbone your next season requires. Chosen one, divine transformation rarely arrives with noise. It does not need applause. It does not announce itself to the crowd. It happens within, quietly, deeply, completely. It reshapes the foundation of who you are. Most people spend their lives trying to overpower the world around them, but the chosen learn a higher truth. The greatest victory is not external first, it is internal. When your inner world comes into order, the outer world begins to respond. When your spirit becomes anchored, your reality begins to shift. When you master what once mastered you, everything around you starts rearranging. So if these 9 marks are showing up in your life, understand this clearly. You are not watching your old life fall apart. You are watching yourself outgrow it. Comment 9 below if you know this shift is already happening in you. Subscribe if you are ready for the next revelation. Stay connected. Stay watchful. Stay set apart. Because what is ahead of you is not another cycle of struggle. It is the emergence of the power heaven forged in secret.